Welcome to Behind the Audition podcast with your host, Curt Hilton. Listen in on interviews with voiceovers, filmmakers, producers, animators, and much more. Curt, a voice actor himself, will give insider tips to the business, talk with guests about how they got into the business, and be sure to stay tuned to the end of the podcast when he challenges his guests with a pop-up audition. Now it's time for Behind the Audition podcast. Here's Curt Hilton.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Audition podcast. My next guest was a voice of thousands of movie trailers and video games. He was part of the Emmy-nominated Honest Trailers. There are impersonators, but John is one of the best. We talked about how he got into the business, his inspiration to get him into the business of voice acting, and how he actually did a movie of one of the voices that inspired him. He has over 2 billion social media views. So sit back and enjoy this interview with the one and only John Bailey. And welcome to the show, the very talented one and only John Bailey. How you doing?
What's up? That was the shortest intro ever.
Hey, keep it short and sweet.
Nothing cool like the epic voice of 4-time Emmy-nominated series Honest Trailers with over 7,000 bookings in 12 years.
Just to start things off, I literally am still laughing. I think I almost woke my family up laughing because of your deep fake, the toddler from Henry Danger.
Yes, apparently that's very popular.
I mean, dude, it was like 1 o'clock. I don't know what it is with the pandemic, but I always want to wake up at 3 a.m. every night. It's like, what is going on?
Schedule's off, yeah.
Yeah, and so I woke up and I'm like, I'm just going to mess around on Instagram. And I saw that, and I almost woke the family up. It was so funny and so well done, man.
It's not even my best one.
Well, you have like over 1 point something billion views on your social media, so that one.
I have over 2 billion combined credited views online, according to doneby.com, if that's still even going. But maybe there's another site now that does it. But last time I checked, yeah, it was over 2 billion credited views.
That's amazing.
Sucks
That's amazing.
because like I'm not getting monetized off most of those. It's just credited. It's like, oh, I can't wait to spend my Republic credits.
So what's keeping you busy during this pandemic?
Making content. I was like, no, I've been working pretty steadily, actually. I dubbed a Netflix series yesterday. I'm working on an actual legitimate cartoon next week, and yeah, just stuff keeps coming. So I'm just always grateful that God keeps putting money in our way when jobs are kind of hard right now. So yeah. But yeah, the gap in between though, that's kind of when I would usually go to events or network or go hang out with friends, other people in the business, try to learn from other folks, like what's going on, has there been any changes, what's working for you, what's not working for you, it's kind of like what I do on TikTok digitally online now with other creators. Like I met Fred Stoller. I don't know if you know Fred Stoller, but you definitely would recognize his voice. Get off the phone. And now we're like friends. I helped him get verified. He's verified on TikTok now. And he knows that I do an impression of him, but he's never heard it. So maybe one day I'll do an impression on TikTok of Fred Stoller for Fred Stoller, and maybe Fred Stoller will react to my Fred Stoller. That would be,
oh my gosh,
that would be like Stollerception. Frank Caliendo and like all these guys that I grew up like looking up to and be like, those guys are really funny. And now I'm like, we're just like hanging out and talking, like we're friends or whatever.
That's so you talk with Caliendo?
Yeah, Caliendo and I we chat a lot these days. I think it's because we speak the same language.
That's hilarious.
You'll know what I mean when you're a voice actor and other people aren't voice actors. You just have to take my word for it. It's like they're speaking a different language altogether. But then you find somebody else who does voices or does impressions, and they know exactly what you're saying in words that you have a hard time articulating to people who have no idea what you're talking about. And it's like, oh crap, this guy understands what I'm saying. So it's like,
Absolutely.
It's like that moment in Detective Pikachu. It's like I've been waiting for someone to talk to for so long. You understand me? Yeah, it's pretty much that.
That was almost like a Dane Cook right there.
Oh, Dane Cook made one joke and he read it wrong. And had an added for somebody who's a comedian. He does not take criticism well, even when it's a joke.
It's all right. Hey, it makes you stronger.
Well, see, now I have to tell the story. So I was on Twitter, and he was talking about how he put his heart and soul into this project that he was on. And I was making the joke. I was like, and who does one sell one's heart and soul to get to become successful, asking for a friend. And he took that as an insult when I was just making a joke, like, what do you got to do to be so successful? You know, based off what he had said about the whole heart and soul thing. And he took that as, you know, I was being sarcastic and making fun of him. He's like, how do you block somebody on Twitter asking for a friend? And of course, all his minions are like, yeah, you can't believe you can't tell me the Cookie is the most amazing comic ever 10, 15 years ago. You know, so it's like, okay.
You know, and comedians, they give it to people more than anybody. So I think, you know, it's all fun and games. And, you know,
Jessica Simpson was an important person when he was at the height of his career. I'm just saying, folks. Just give me crap on Twitter, bro.
Oh man, so
it's a joke. Come on,
hey, that's exactly
a comedian. You should be able to take this.
Absolutely,
understood. I'm saying.
I tell you, so with Caliendo, was he probably the one who inspired you to get into this, or who inspired you to be a person
No, don't ever tell Frank Caliendo that you inspired him. His ego's big enough as it is. I'm kidding. He was one of those guys that I looked up to because I'd already wanted to be a voice actor back by the time I saw Frank on my TV. But I looked up to him because I was able to use his techniques to kind of figure out how to do certain voices when in my professional career. Because I'm like, how in the world, you know? So sometimes I would use it's voice engineering, trademark, patent pending.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take an audition I would get for example, I've told him this story too. Like I got an audition for Jeff Bridges, and he is such a unique, normal voice, and you just don't hear people doing Jeff Bridges impressions.
No, you don't. I mean, and with the voice acting world nowadays, you'll see a lot of people do voice impressions. I mean, you're professional voice impressioner, so
impressioner. That's a new one. I'm
a
visual voice impressioner. Okay,
impersonator.
Impressioner. No, I'm actually in the technical sense. I am a professional sound-alike. I do what's called voice matching, and there's a difference between what I do on social media, because that is more like impressions. Because when it's complicated, because you're trying to focus on the camera, your physical movements, as well as being entertaining or funny or whatever you're trying to, you know, if you're trying to be serious or if you're trying to be cool or if you're trying whatever, but you have multiple things going in your head at the same time. You're all of a sudden worried about the camera, what you're looking at, how your body is reacting, and doing the voice all at the same time. And that takes away from the voice. So when I'm doing my actual job, I can put 1000% focus on making the voice sound right. So I can just slip in, do the job. Like right now, you can notice the voices are even better just doing this audio, because I don't have to worry about the freaking camera being on.
Right.
Without the camera, that frees up a lot of focus. So I no longer have to worry about where I'm looking. I can focus on the lines that I'm reading and making that voice sound as close to the real guy as possible, because that's how you get the job. Because it's voice ninja-ing, I guess, if anything. I slip in, do the voice for the other actor who was clearly not available at the time, or they have to wait until that actor becomes available. And in the meantime, it's much cheaper for them, you know, to hire me for scale and do that voice real quick, fill in the blank until he comes in. Or sometimes if they just can't get the other person and my sound-alike was good enough, I'm still getting residuals for Russell Crowe from something I didn't even realize I was doing that was a residual job. I filled in for him in the Mummy trailers, and it was supposed to be just in the trailers. In the trailers, you don't get residuals for that. You get a buyout. But apparently they used something I did in the actual film, so I still get residual checks when that 2 or 3 people that still watch the Mummy on Redbox or whatever.
Wow. Have you met
Russell Crowe and the entire divorced family? Thank you very much for I appreciate all the pences.
Have you met any of the celebrities that you've done there
in person? No, a few of them, but not people that I've actually filled in for. Well, I take that back. A few times I have, and it was back before I was more professional. I didn't know how stupid it was to walk up to somebody famous while they're eating, be like,
go up with their voice.
I met of all people too. It couldn't be some D-list celebrity, Sir Ben Kingsley. And I'm like, I filled in for your voice on Ender's Game. Can I get a picture? He's got like food hanging out of his mouth. I'm like, oh crap. I learned. I don't do that anymore.
Now I saw you on the commercial doing the movie trailer voice.
Mitsubishi, yeah.
Yes, the Don LaFontaine voice. And I have to say, between you and Pablo Francisco, yeah, I think yours topped his. I remember his Pablo Francisco.
Of course it does. Because Pablo's actually merging 2 guys together. He's not doing it. He keeps claiming that's a Don impression. But what he did was he mashed Hal Douglas and Don together
and created that voice that he does.
I mean, it's not the same. It's not Don. It's just a little bit of both, I think.
That sounded exactly like both of them. Actually, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, because you take Hal Douglas, who talks like this, and Don LaFontaine, who sounds like this, and merge them together, and you get little Tortilla Boy.
And he literally just mashed those two guys. That's how I first actually. Well, I first found out about the trailer thing. I'd known about him. I just never really gave much thought. And then my brother found Pablo's like setup, and he's like, "Dude, I bet you could do this better than him." And after I listened to it, I was like, that doesn't sound like the guy that I'm thinking it does. And then we saw Don on camera in the actual commercial for Geico, and I was like, that's what it is. And then I noticed the other, because I have a very good ear for picking out voices. Like a lot of people that come like, "Oh, why don't these voices sound the same?" And after I block them, I comment somebody else's comment about because no, but that's the thing is some people can only hear deep voices. They only hear, they think all the voices sound the same. They think that Keith David sounds like Optimus Prime sounds like Don LaFontaine, and it doesn't. If you listen,
you can hear the subtle distinct differences between someone like Keith David and someone like Optimus Prime and someone like Don LaFontaine.
There's subtle differences, but they're differences. You know what I mean? And you can hear it when you're listening for it. But when you're watching it in a video and you're watching something and listening at the same time, and your ear doesn't really distinct between anything other than pitches, you hear low voices, and that's where the comments come from of like, "Oh, it's all the same guy, they're the same boy." I was like, well, my wallet disagrees, but whatever.
How'd that commercial come about? Like when you went in for the audition, how did that work?
I didn't have to audition for that one, actually. They had seen the prank commercials that we had done for Break a long time ago before that company went bankrupt and got rebought and sold and whatever it's doing now. And they just liked the whole concept, and they were already doing this under this hidden camera prank theme. Like they had a rapper come on that was a young lady that like she looks like a little girl, but she actually like raps. Like they pretend it was like daddy daughter work day or something like that. And she's spitting out fire like freaking Eminem, you know what I mean? But nobody knows until she starts doing it. And they had some other guy that came in and he does, I think he raps or sings or something. He has a very unique talent. And they, I don't look, the main reason why they liked it, because I don't look like I sound that way. And people don't really realize I can do it until they hear me do it, because I look like I sound like this. So, and I don't walk around talking like this all the time because it would be weird. I don't go into the freaking, grocery store and be like, "Where are the cans of peas?"
That would be awesome though. That would be
weird though. It would get nonstop attention and I would never get anything done. So, I mean, I'm kind of glad for the lack of, the anonymity of the internet, except for TikTok. Now people actually know what I look like. That happened a little bit because of some of the stuff that I had done on YouTube previously, but not near as much. Now it's like I go into a live stream trying to, get some more followers or trying to, let people know who I am or say hi. And now I don't even have to like, "Oh crap, Epic Voice Guy's in the chat." Oh,
that's hilarious.
All the time.
You should do that though. You should totally do that. Go into the grocery store, have somebody film it, and just like, kind of like walk.
With masks, makes it kind of hard to do any stuff like that.
6 feet.
I could walk through the grocery store and say nothing, and then just go in a corner somewhere and just record the audio of me saying things. Because with a mask, you're not going to know. I can.
Oh yeah, you're right.
All fake, guys. Hollywood's fake.
Exactly.
It's real. Illuminati. Jim Carrey was right.
You could drop your Optimus Prime, get back 6 feet with that voice. That'd freak somebody out.
It does. It does in Ubers and Lyfts all the time. Because people find out like, "Oh, you do voices for the like? What kind of thing do you do?" It's like,
"Is your vehicle an Autobot or a Decepticon?"
And they're like, and they're lucky to
ride free now.
No, it's never free. It never pays anything. It just pays in oohs and ahs, which is really hard to pay the bills with, guys.
And I will say, you're Ryan Reynolds. There's a couple out there that can do that, but your impression.
No, they're not. I'm the only one. No one else can do it but me. It's just like the Highlander of voices. There can be only one.
Oh man! So
actually, when I worked on Detective Pikachu, I'd heard from the engineer, like they had brought in a couple of other guys to like try out. They said they could kind of sort of sound like Ryan, but they could not act. And I was like, "Well, that's good for me because I can act."
Oh, that's great. He has one of those voices that don't sound like anybody else, and spot on. I think you probably do the best in impression.
Well, especially when when I'm on social media, it's just impression and improv, just putting those two things together, and that's basically Ryan's whole shtick. He's just making up funny things off the top of his head and saying them a certain way while brandishing something from Mint Mobile or Aviation Gin. So like, but I mean, I got one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten. Like Michael Bay told me in person, he's like, wow, he doesn't just sound like Ryan Reynolds, he can act like Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I had real tears, like real tears while I was acting. It was pretty good. So, look it, Ryan. I'm your fat understudy.
Oh man,
I love Ryan. I don't hate you, Ryan.
Oh goodness. So you did Transformers Bumblebee, and you got to do Shockwave and Soundwave. How was working on a movie like that?
That was freaking awesome. That was like, the crown jewel of my career so far, pretty much. Because as cool as it is filling in for people like Ryan Reynolds and working, I mean, that was probably the most fun job I've ever had. But as far as like coolness factor goes, because that's going back to your original question, like, what inspired me to get into it, Optimus Prime's voice, like Peter Cullen's voice. In fact, I heard it first in Voltron there during the intro, and then heard it again as Optimus in Transformers, and immediately got hooked on that. And so this film had a tenth of the budget of the previous Transformers film. So it was filmed like a normal film where they actually hire ADR voice actors like myself who, that's pretty much my job. You come in, like what I did for Detective Pikachu and other films, come in, fill in for the stuff until things are finalized. And then they bring in the actual actors to record. So I'd originally gotten in there because the pay scale for the ADR was much lower than other actors' rates, and I'm not going to go into it more than that, but they turned it down. So I'm like, well, I have 4 kids to feed, Right. So I make sure, like, look, if the other actors don't want to have anything to do with this, if they refuse, then obviously I'm going to take the job, because I mean, wouldn't you rather be somebody who knows what they're doing and is actually good at it and actually knows the property, knows the characters? And so my agent pitched my demo to him. Paramount loved it, brought me in for like 3 or 4 sessions, really short. I mean, I waited in the lobby longer than I recorded. I think may have recorded 5 or 10 minutes each time.
Wow.
But yeah, it was really, really short, because I mean, most of the animated stuff's at the very beginning in that one scene. So there's not a lot of other VO to do for the rest of the film. But they brought me in to be basically Optimus Prime's like understudy. So I was like Peter Cullen's voice double up until that. I did the best I could with that. They had very specific timing. I have heard through the grapevine that there was an assumption that he had to mimic what I was doing and copy what I did because it was already timed and animated. I saw the screening, folks.
Yeah.
I saw the screening of the movie before the movie came out, and nothing was finished animated yet. I mean, a lot of it was still like CD-ROM quality animation, not quite finished animation. It was various levels. If you've ever seen a screening of a film, you know what I'm talking about. And you've heard ADR voices where they've had to put in, filler voices until they finish the film, and then they release it with all the final voices in it. And it was really cool getting to hear me as Optimus Prime and a couple other characters in there because we accidentally got into that screening in the first place. We had no idea what we were seeing.
Wow.
And it was the very first screening of Bumblebee. And it was really cool, So, but yeah, they had very specific timing for the lines. So that was in a typical ADR session. It's very much like when I loop for a Netflix series or for an anime. Like the timing's already set. So you have to really work with the director because he knows exactly how fast it has to be and how it has to sound in order to make it fit in that spot. And I think that led to confusion on some of the final voices. Like they didn't understand why it was done this way. They thought they were going to do their own ADR. But like I said, Bumblebee had a much smaller budget. That's the only way they can make this film and actually make it profitable, because the previous films, I mean, it was Michael Bay money.
Wow.
So, but I mean, it was still cool. And it got me some experience being there, doing that voice for Optimus led to me being able to fill in for some other characters, and they liked them so much that they left, and not just one character, but 2. I get to be Soundwave and Shockwave. And those are actually my all-time favorite Transformers, by the way. I mean, my top 3 in order are Shockwave, Soundwave, and Optimus Prime. And I've got to voice all 3, which is really awesome.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I got to the one of the biggest thing on my checklist that I thought I would never get to check off was actually being able to be the voice of a Transformer in a Transformers official thing with Optimus Prime voiced by Peter Cullen, because that would mean me and I got to work on something with Peter Cullen, who's the guy who got me inspired to pursue this job in the first place.
Sweet.
So yeah, full circle is really awesome, man.
So you've done hundreds of movie trailers.
Millions.
I was waiting for it.
Zillions of
And you're in many games, and
Yep.
What would you say is your favorite, games or movie trailers?
Favorite game that I worked on, I guess XCOM, because that was such a long running gig. So there's not as many strategy game players out there as there are FPS and RPG. But for those who are into the strategy game, I'm the voice of the council guy in XCOM, which was a cool gig because it was my first AAA title. It was my first time voicing like a character that actually has a credited name instead of just additional voices. I mean, every voice actor starts at the bottom. Everybody does additional voices before they become so and so in that game. Nobody just goes straight to the Nolan North stack,
Hey, I'm waiting to get there one day.
Yeah, I mean, you have to you got to start in the commercials. You got to work your way into some, low budget, cheap animation, whatever stuff. Get yourself into some indie games and work your way up to AAA. And then finally work your way through all the additional voices. And eventually, finally, you'll have a credited name until you move from just being a credited recurring character to a regular. You just have to climb the ladder like everybody else does. And it takes a long stinking time, and most people just don't have the patience. They were like, I have a cool voice, or everybody tells me I do. Everybody tells me I should be a voice actor. And then when they don't book, Batman the Animated Series by the next year, like, this is stupid. I thought I was just going to get easy money to talk into a microphone. Me.
Yes. And some people think, going back to them,
and I'm like, I don't understand. That's what I did. I mean, that's how I got into voiceover. I just talked into a mic and they give me millions of dollars. I don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe you suck. I mean, that's all it is. You should just rethink your whole life.
That's right.
Go be a plumber instead.
My gosh. What was your first audition? What was your first audition?
My very first audition, I don't remember what my very first audition was, to be honest. It was something like a, healthcare, just a regular standard basic commercial. My first booking, though, was for a steakhouse that was very cleverly named Texas Steakhouse. Not a lot of, I know. Not a lot of thought went into that. What kind of steak you serve here? From Texas. Well, then I guess you're Texas Steakhouse. So yeah, that was my first big gig. And the funny thing was, I started receiving auditions February 1st of 2009. And by February 11th, I'd already booked my first job. And it wasn't one that I'd auditioned for. That was the odd thing. It was actually from a demo, which I wrote the copy for. And when I say demo, it was not a standard demo. The way that company worked was they just put like a 10 or 15 second clip of each voice you could do, and they had a whole bunch of clips. So if you were looking for cowboy, you could click this one, and movie trailer guy, you click this one. Not a standard demo where you just mix in a bunch of things that are in that genre. Like for a commercial demo, you put all commercial voice, you put little characters in there, you put some trailer voice in there, put a little bit of everything in a commercial demo. That's why I always recommend that for the first demo you make, because you don't have enough credits or experience to make a character demo and a demo for commercials and a trailer demo and a this and a that and that. So all those things came with time and experience, but this was something else. It was very weird the way they had these all split up by character. I think one of the pay to play sites a long time, like 10, 15 years ago, had something similar to that, where it's like, this is the voice of this one particular dude or guy or character or sound alike, whatever. But that led to me getting that job. And I remember just like blowing my mind how much, and you have to understand, this is non-union rates, but it was $1,200 for 3 TV commercials, or two TV commercials and 3 radio commercials. And they were local. They were not national, but for $1,200 for that much work, I mean, I may have recorded for 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Blew my flipping mind. I was like, holy cow, you make this kind of money with that? And that's not, like I said, not even union rates. So that'd been scaled, dude. That'd have been 5 figures at least. Wow. So I had no idea. I mean, I was raised poor, man. I was raised poor off, grandparents helping out. And when our parents had trouble, my dad worked 2 jobs all the time. Never got to see him. And so like I went right to that. I was warehouse and, burger flipping type stuff. So I was used to making less than $300 a week. So to get an invoice for $1,200 for being in a studio for just, so I can see the common misconception where it's like, oh, you make millions of dollars. Right. Yeah, but what if you only booked that one job for 3 months? You're going to live off $1,200 for 3 months? No.
Right. I agree.
Not to mention you have to wait forever to get that check. You just get the invoice when you do the job.
I think I got you topped with the steakhouse. I grew up outside St. Louis. We had a steakhouse called Mr. Steak.
Oh, Mr. Steak. I like Mr. Steak. That's clever. That's more clever than Texas Steakhouse.
Yeah, it was like that great font with the cursive Mr. Steak. But it looked like
I mean, honestly, they could only have been lazier with Texas Steakhouse if they just called it Steakhouse. Or just called it Steak. Like, Like
That is awesome.
there wasn't a lot of thought that went into that one, I don't think.
Oh, wow. So we got some people listening that want to get into the world of voice acting. What would you recommend to those wanting to get into the world of voice acting? Is, some just think it's having a good mic, taking pictures of themselves in a studio and having a good dog. What would you recommend to them?
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't describe what I'm seeing here today. It's horrible, horrible, absolutely horrible. Oh, the humanity. Run for your lives. Run. That's what I would say. This job requires a ton of patience, a ton of determination, and extremely thick skin.
Yes.
There will be you will make a lot of frenemies along your way. People that act like they're their best friend, but behind your back, they're trying to use everything that you learn to their advantage so they can further themselves in their career. It's very hard. I can see why people come so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to Los Angeles, and they're just completely depleted within a year. So most people don't make it past 1 year. Those people leave LA after 1 year.
Wow.
They can't make it longer than that. We've been here pushing 4 years now, and I can see because everybody tells you what you want to hear. Everybody's a used car salesman in Hollywood.
Wow.
they tell you what you want to hear. They make you feel like you're the best thing since sliced bread. And if you're booking constantly and you're doing great, everybody's patting you on the back. Oh, this John Bailey. Oh, look, Mr. Superstar's here. And then somebody else starts booking and you stop. Hey, other guy, superstar, Mr. Nobody remembers you anymore. And you constantly have to stay on top of it. You have to keep working and working and working. It is a friggin' grind. And there's a reason why you see so much of me on social media, because that's the only way to stay in people's minds. You have to make sure that people know who you are and remember you. If you just sit on your hands and wait for stuff to come to you, you'll never make it. I've known people, I've related to people, I've known people that have just spent their whole lives thinking that I could do this job. I'm really great. I would be great at it, but they don't realize the amount of work that they personally have to put into it. They think because they have an agent or because they have, clout or so many followers on this, or they all have different reasons why they think they're going to just be awesome. And the job's just, let me tell you something, folks. There are people in the inner circle. And when I mean that is sortorum sanctum borisrum, the elite group of maybe 10, 20 people that book all the big anime. Those guys still audition every flipping day. They're working their butts off to stay where they are. It's not just, I'm Tara Strong, so I never have to audition again. No, it's not like that. Tara Strong auditions all the time. Wow. Everybody does. I see Tom Kenny over at Voicecasters, just like me, doing the same thing I'm doing. It's a little weird because I walk in and he's like, "Hi, John," and I'm like, "Hi, Mr. Kenny. I'm your biggest fan." I should get a Golden Globe or an Oscar for pretending to be cool around these, mega superstar voice actors that I just run into. I'm just true. John to them, and I'm looking at them like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And inside I'm like, "Ah!"
How many auditions do you think you do a week?
No, you can't answer that, bro. That's not cool.
Okay. Fine.
No, it depends. It depends on the person, but that is kind of like that's kind of one of those things that you don't ask voice actors, like, well, how many auditions? Because no matter what you say, somebody else is going to be like, they're getting more auditions than me. What's going on with that?
Right.
There's all that competition and all that. There's downright jealousy in some areas of the business. Like, why are they getting all these auditions for stuff that I'm just as good at? Or, I've been there. I've gotten to that juvenile point of being petty. Like, dude, I've got more experience than that guy. How do they even get an audition for that? Where's my? And I start calling up my agent, like, hey, there's this whole show that I didn't know about, and I didn't even get an audition for. Why did you send me? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I mean, you have to be careful answering and asking that question to a voice actor, because there's people out there that are like, oh yeah, how many do you do? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I should be getting more than you.
Absolutely. Well, there's some people who do post on social media, and they'll be like, "Oh, I did 36 auditions this week." No,
I would never say.
I'm like,
because they're probably lying.
Probably. I mean,
the last time I had 30 auditions in a day, I was working 3 pay-to-play sites, and they were emailing me just tons of stuff all day long every day. And honestly, when you're in a union, you don't get there. You're not going to get 30 auditions a day. On a good week, if I do 2 or 3 animation or, game, something with a decent paycheck involved or whatever, or a couple commercials, like a handful that, you'd be fine. That would be great. Most people are not even getting that. Most people are like, man, I haven't auditioned in 3 weeks, so you just never know. It depends on who their agent is. It depends on their skill level. It depends on if they're actually into. My manager reminds me all the time. She's like, I don't want you to be financially prepared, because you just never. I'm like, look, if you're going to tell me that, I'm here today and gone tomorrow, I knew that coming in, because no voice, especially one of like me who fills in for other people and takes voice actor jobs from. I don't take voice actor jobs from other voice actors, but I take voice jobs from celebrities who are too busy to do their own. But I'm literally replacing them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a guy who replaces voices shouldn't assume that he's irreplaceable.
That's absolutely true.
I had a guy message me on Facebook one time. It was right before I quit Facebook. And he's like, I've been putting off this message. I'm trying not to laugh because the guy was really serious, and I felt bad that this had been eating him up for so long. But he apparently he'd been putting off messaging me for years, is what he said, because he had come across an audition that was literally looking for me. And instead of looking for me, they were looking for people who could just sound like me. He's like,
oh my goodness.
I'm not gonna lie, I did the audition. I was like, and I kept waiting for the horrible part that he was wanting to apologize for.
And that's it.
What did you do? Was it for some company I work for and you replaced me? It wasn't. It was nothing. It was just the fact that they were looking for the epic voice guy, John Bailey, and they had a clip from Honest Trailers looking for that voice, and they were auditioning a bunch of people for it, and he felt bad auditioning for it, even though he didn't get the job. So goodness. He felt compelled after years of guilt to message me and ask me to, say he's sorry and ask me to forgive him for it. And I'm like, what do I have to forgive? Like, dude, I freaking replace people all the time. How hypocritical of it would be of me to be like, oh, how dare you do an impression of me? I'm going to sue your pants off. Like, dude, that's what I do for a living. I fill in for other people. That's the majority of my business.
I remember doing like impressions around people, and I thought I actually was good. And then I realized, when I heard people like you and others, like, the whole Matthew McConaughey, everybody thinks they sound like Matthew McConaughey with the all right and stuff. And I would do it. I'd be like, how you doing there? And I was like, I sound like Jack Nicholson and Matthew McConaughey put together. I'm never doing that again. And
I've had that happen to a lot, because there's sometimes people, it's okay. I'll give you an example that everybody can understand. Listen to how you think you sound when you talk, and then record yourself and play it back. And then you're gonna be like, oh crap, I don't sound anything like I thought I did. A lot of people think they're doing great impressions when they're actually not, because nobody's ever been honest enough with them to tell them, hey, this really sucks. And not in a way where, not like TikTok comments or your internet comments where it's like, ew, all your voices are stupid. You can't do it. I'm like, I don't do voices on here that I have not been paid to do. So whether you like it or not, I can't ever say that. I've considered throwing some out there that I'm trying, because there's some that I haven't booked yet that I've auditioned for, and they're hard voices to get, like Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones is really hard to get. He's got that kind of unique sound, when he talks like this. But then he has this whole other voice that he talks. I'm going to check every hen house, barn house, and out. And it's not perfect yet. I'm still working on it, but I'm not going to throw that up on TikTok because I know it's not good yet. But then I do one like Dwayne Johnson, or ones that they don't think sound as good as they should. And then people are like, this sounds like, pfft. And I'm like, they paid me good money to sound like, pfft. So you know.
Do you remember any auditions that you remember bombing?
No, I tend to let them know ahead of time. Like, I'll let them know when I know it sucks. Like, look, this sucks. You can tell me if you give me your honest opinion, and you think it sounds like the other person. Because they're professionals too. They know what a good sound like is, because they're the ones sending the audition. And if I'm a perfectionist, so I don't think unless it's 100% good that I should get booked on it, unless I'm just the best that they could find. And that's happened before. Like I did not think that I did a great Chris Pratt, but yet I booked it for 3 films, and it was one of those, it was another one of those like Jeff Bridges where I had to kind of revoice engineer from some other voice. And I was like, that sounds like Owen Wilson. So if I just change his accent and placement, that's basically the voice. I mean, you start out with Owen Wilson. It's like, wow, you're on the internet, hanging out in a Zoom call, it's like, wow, this guy's on the internet. We're both talking at the same time. You just take that voice and you push it to the back of the throat a little bit, echo blue. You have to respect these animals. I'm Star-Lord, man. And it's the same freaking voice. It is. And the number one comment I got on that, because I did both in one video, Chris Pratt sounds like Owen Wilson. I'm like, or does Owen Wilson sound like Chris Pratt?
Dude, you're right. You have actually solved what I've been looking for. I was watching one of the Jurassic Parks with Chris Pratt in it, and he was talking, and he kind of like switched his voice. I'm like, who's he?
He's Owen Wilson, dude. I'm
oh
telling
my
you.
gosh! Like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
because he has such a normal voice, those are the hardest ones to audition for because they sound so normal.
Oh my gosh, you
But I
sound.
mean, I did that Chris Pratt thing, that back of the throat. And yeah, you can. He's got a little bit of a gravel, a little bit of swagger to him, got a little charm to him, And it's Owen Wilson. It really is. It's Owen Wilson without
Oh yes, that's
those
awesome.
and all the extra wows. And you take the West Coast accent and you push it a little bit further back and make it more something, Missouri it up a little bit. And it's Chris Pratt. And that got me booked for 3 films. One of those films I think I ended up doing like 4 or 5 different jobs for. So that was a pretty good paycheck. But the people in the comments, with their basic amateur non-professional ears keep giving me crap in the comments about stuff like that. But like I said, I'm not going to put one out there that I know I haven't booked before that I know sucks because I know the kind of feedback it's got. The only way I would do it is if I'm trying to get laughs. That's my when I try to explain this to people who ask about it during a coaching session, I always explain to it, okay, so when you go to the fair, you see the guy that's doing the caricatures. He's making this big giant head and he's accentuating all your features. That's an impression.
Right.
So, and you take that and then you take somebody who actually does forgeries and makes an exact copy of the original artwork. That is a voice match. That's the difference. You should not be able to distinguish between the real guy and the fake voice. Whereas with an impression, as long as people know that they can figure out who it is and it's funny, it's fine. Because that's the main purpose is because, comedians started doing impressions for that very reason. They're trying to get a laugh. That's why everybody thinks when they do an Arnold Schwarzenegger, they're doing Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're not doing his speaking voice. There's a difference there. You know what I mean? Because you slip in there, you have to do his exact voice. Yeah, but it's not this one with the toughness. Look at me, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the same thing with like what you're talking about, where somebody thinks they're doing a good impression, but they don't actually know what makes that a perfect impression. Or maybe it is funny. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, that is a funny impression. That's not dishonest. It's a funny impression. Is it a good sound alike? No, not even close. So I try not to make people feel bad when they ask, because I get a lot of people asking me their opinions or my opinions on. They're like, hey, critique my voices. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
I don't like to hurt people's feelings.
They need it though. They need it. Some people need it.
Yeah, I know. But then I get the same crap from people who have no idea what they're talking about. And I know they're trying to bait me into here lately, I've just, the last couple of days, every time somebody leaves a negative comment, they're like, hey, so-and-so sounds bad. And I just automatically like, no, it doesn't. This is like my reply. Or they say, this doesn't sound good. I'm like, yes, it does. I'm just like a simple bait. And I'm just waiting for somebody to
that's awesome. That's perfect.
like come back with it.
It's like a closed-ended one. I love it. So it's time for the audition challenge. You ready? This is something we do on the show.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a line.
And
you can choose either a character of your choice. We'll do a movie trailer guy, a cartoon voice, or just anything you want to choose. I'll give you the line, and you read the line back with that voice. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So we'll do a fun one here. It's this fall, heroes will join forces to stop the hoarding of toilet paper and Sanka. Heroes are known as the anti-hordes. Coming soon.
This fall, heroes will join forces to stop the hoarding of toilet paper and Sanka. Heroes known as the Anti-Hoarders. Captain Anti-Hoarders. Coming soon.
That was awesome. And I want to talk about something you do good for a good cause for your fans. You want to talk about that?
Absolutely. So I don't really advertise this. Usually when somebody direct messages me or DMs, as the young people say, they give me some kind of like, would you say, so I get a lot of those and I'm like, well, you know what? I don't have time to do a bunch of free favors. I know everybody wants to be featured as a video reply on TikTok, but when you have thousands of requests, there's just no way to get to them all. So for $5, you can get up to 25 words. Had a few people don't like that rate. Sorry, that's just because my time is very, very valuable and I spend a lot of it doing actual professional work. So I cannot spend the devotion of most of my time to doing $5 jobs when I have bills to pay. So Sorry, but half of that goes to Autism Society of America, which is my favorite charity. We have an autistic son. So you can go to fiverr.com/ and it's 2 R's, FIVERR.com/JB voiceover for a personal request, guys. Don't get me doing saying that there's a couple things I can't do. I can't legally say that I'm a character or a actual celebrity. I can't say, oh, hi, I'm Ryan Reynolds. that's against the law. So I can say things in celebrity voices or character voices, whatever. It's for happy birthdays and voicemail messages, and yeah, you can hire me for $5 just for basic, personal jobs, no professional stuff. I mean, obviously, so I'm gonna have to look through it. And I can't do your own fake honest trailers for you guys. Okay, I am under contract with the official stuff, so it can't be like an honest trailer. Just throwing it out there, because a lot of people come in with their, oh, I swear this is just for my voicemail system, and then they try to trick me into doing a real honest trailer that's not officially from the official sources, and that gets me in a lot of trouble. So let's not do that.
And if somebody wants to hire you, how could they hire you, and where can we find you on social media?
At Epic Voice Guy on all the things. I know it's so hard to remember. At Epic Voice Guy. I know, with the little @ sign. I know it's super complicated with the little squiggly. Looks like kind of like a rose. Anyway, the little squiggly rose thing. Epic Voice Guy. That is all the socials. I'm only on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for now. Well, I take that back. I'm also still have a Twitch account. Don't use it very often. It's the same, Epic Voice Guy on Twitch. And also a still kind of sort of up and coming app called Stardust, which I review movies and do trailer reactions and TV show review stuff. So that's still going. I just haven't been at it very much lately because of personal stuff. So, but it is there, and I am going to get back on it. We'll review 30-second reviews of movies and shows and trailer reaction stuff. So a lot of fun, a lot of pop culture, current stuff that's out right now. I check it out and tell you my opinion on it from my perspective. And and then my website and stuff. So all my socials have a link to all my things, and you can contact me via the contact page of my website, which is linked on all the socials. So it's just epicvoiceguy.com. So that's for all you folks that want a real, professional jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say thank you very, very much. I'm a huge fan of you. Thank you for making the days that are hard for most that are having a bad day good. I mean, you are hilarious. Keep doing what you're doing. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in on Behind the Audition podcast, made possible by Hilton Productions. If you need a male or female voiceover, contact us at hiltonproductions.com. Hilton Productions. Let our voices do the selling.